In March of 2011, we have a very exciting 3-week festival planned with our guest conductor, Esa-Pekka Salonen, the principal conductor of the Philharmonia Orchestra and the former music director of the Los Angeles Philharmonic. Very lucky to have him with us for 3 weeks of what I think are fascinating programs. The programs combine music by 3 composers who, at various points in their lifetimes and careers, had some connection to Hungary. And the first of those is József Haydn, who was the court composer to one of the most powerful Hungarian noble families of the early modern period, the 17th and 18th centuries, the Esterházy family. Their family seat was right on the border between Austria and Hungary, a place where sort of notions of national identity were very flexible at the time, if they existed at all. You had a lot of influence of different cultures kind of in that part of Eastern Europe, and so a fascinating place for Haydn to be because to some extent this kind of rich cultural milieu comes out in his music. The second composer on the festival is Béla Bartók, who is known to many as one of the greatest Hungarian composers and was instrumental in researching Hungarian folk music and more generally sort of Central East European folk music in the early part of the 20th century. He and colleagues would literally go out into villages out in the countryside of Hungary and Romania and these sort of areas in Eastern Europe and the Balkans with a gramophone, you know, literally one of these old wind-up kind of record players with a giant horn on top, and or even wax cylinders before that, and have the peasants that he encountered there, the people that he encountered there in these villages, sing their folk songs into these gramophones in order to make recordings of them, and then he would studiously transcribe this Hungarian folk music, and it played an instrumental role in shaping his musical vocabulary as a composer. The third composer on the festival is another composer with connections to Hungary, György Ligeti, who was Hungarian descent in Romania. Again, this was an area of the world that was very sort of fluid in identity, and borders shifted throughout the early part of the 20th century, and so he was a Hungarian, but he was born in Romania and had again a deep connection to the kind of traditions of East Central Europe, and that comes out in his earliest music, and then gradually it's combined with all sorts of other influences, and by the sort of pinnacle of his career in the 1960s, 1970s, 80s, at the end of the last century, he was really sort of this polymath with all these wonderful influences kind of digested and turned into a very personal musical language. So in a sense, the festival is about these 3 composers and the connections between them and the differences between them, and also it just offered a chance to make some fascinating programs with music by 3 terrific composers. So that's what we'll hear over the 3 weeks of the festival.